In this session, we're going to be talking a little bit about family. And so I'm going to give you 11 different points about family and ministry. Number one, are you ready? Prioritize your family over your ministry. Now, it seems like in church work, there is just this list of never-ending needs. So many people need us all the time. But the church will drain your family if you do not prioritize your family. Let your kids know that they are more important to you than the church is. Oftentimes the kids will see us on our phone, returning calls, and during dinner time, the phone rings and we jump up. That speaks to our kids that this is really more important than the conversation we were just having, and it's something that we struggle with so much in our home. But we're trying to remember to always prioritize our family and to let our children know that they truly are our priority so that they feel that way. Number two, we want to make our home a refuge. And when it comes to kids, we want our kids to be able to relax in our home and just be themselves without having to feel like they're on display. So many times when a church is starting at the very beginning, maybe your office is in your home or you're having meetings in your home in small groups, and maybe you're really trying to connect with people in the community and you're having them over all the time. The kids could even feel like, they're having to share their toys with the whole neighborhood, and there needs to be a line drawn there that helps our families, especially our children, understand that they too have a place that's a refuge, a home where they have time to be with just family, where they're not like on the clock as kids. Okay, number three, allow your kids to be as normal as possible. This is something that we are really dealing with and working on in our home right now. We have kids who are teenagers, young adults, and so we're trying to let them be normal and not ever make them feel like they have to act a certain way because their dad's a pastor, whether they're 2 or whether they're 18. We want them to know that that they love God because they love God, not because necessarily their dad is a pastor. Or we've tried not to say to our kids, you better act this way because everybody's looking at you, your dad's a pastor. And for a long time, our son didn't really understand that his dad was a lead pastor at Westridge. We never wanted to put something on him to make him feel like he had to be a certain way because everybody's looking at him, like he has this pressure. But we're just praying that as we run and hand them that baton, that they will take that because God is their God and make their faith their own. But we want our kids to be normal kids. We just want them to come to church like everybody else comes to church. And so in our home, we're trying to say yes to as many things as possible. We want to always say no to sin, but say yes to as many other social things that we possibly can, so our kids can know that they're just normal kids like the other kids are. Number 4, allow your kids to make mistakes and don't set yourself up to be perceived as perfect parents. And sometimes that's hard for us because we do know as church planners that people are looking at our kids, and there are jokes, about pastors' kids and how crazy they are, but ask permission before you tell all these stories on stage about your children, and allow them to do stupid things in front of people at the church. Sometimes we'll look at our children making mistakes and we take it so personally, and really it's a pride thing, and we think, oh, people will think we're less than the perfect parents. And our oldest son Taylor was so wild and crazy when he was a toddler and when he was in elementary school. I just knew from the beginning, if our kids ever turn out great, it will be totally God's grace and nothing that we have done. So don't set yourself up to be these perfect parents and expect your kids to be perfect. Number 5, recognize spiritual warfare in your own home and combat it with worship and with talking about how great Jesus is. And in our home, our kids, we talk about spiritual warfare, and sometimes our kids, now that they're older, will say, it's Satan, right, Mom? But when Taylor was little, we had a night where we had spent the entire day doing incredibly fun things for him, and we tucked him in bed at night. He said, everything's awful. Nothing ever goes well for me. And I was furious at him, and I realized all of a sudden, this is Satan lying to him. So from the time our kids were little, we want to talk to them about the great work that God is doing in the lives of people and how Satan would love to target our family. And so the way that we combat Spiritual warfare is through worship and talking about how great God is. Okay, number 6, develop leadership in your children and give them greater responsibility for their age. There's nothing worse than babied pastors' kids. Don't baby your children. Just let them grow to be great leaders. We want our children, we want our boys to grow to be great men, and we want our women to grow to be strong women with purpose. So develop leadership in your children. Let them be a part of what you're doing and let them grow to be leaders themselves. Number 7, be intentional. Great things never happen in a church or a family by accident, but we have to talk to our kids about our values. We have to be intentional about the things that we do. Number 8, allow your home to be guilt-free and impart to your children an accurate view of God. And what I mean by that is we want our children just to know that God is already pleased with them because of what Jesus has done on the cross for them. Not like they have to do this big list of things so that they can get God's approval. Like he's this big God that is always unhappy with them. But help your kids be able to relax and just know that God cares about them. Let your home be guilt-free and let them realize God's grace, especially in a pastor's home. And number 9, do not care about what people think. You will never, ever, ever be able to please all the people in your church. But just realize that people will come and go. Even your staff, which is maybe hard to believe at this point, will come and go. But your family is there for the long run. And so what you want to do is think about pleasing God and know what your purpose is, but don't ever care about what everybody thinks. Now, when our youngest son, Zach, was little, he would say, "We don't care what people think, do we, Mom?" And I thought, oh no, we've really kind of let him know our thoughts on don't care what people think. But the way I've tried to explain this to my kids is that what we want to do is we want to honor God and do exactly what he has called us to do. Know what our purpose is and do what is appropriate. And then after that, you don't have to worry about what people say or think about you. And number 10, major on major things and let the little things be minor. You're going to have so many crazy things going on in church planting that with your children you want to major on the major things and don't nitpick every tiny little thing that they do. They're going to have an extra load on them as kids in their schools and in their communities for some reason just because their dad's a pastor. They're going to see things that some other kids don't see. And they're going to hear things that other kids don't hear. They're going to have certain challenges there because they're in ministry and it's a little bit different for them. It's good, it's just a little bit different. So major on those major things and let the little things, just let those things go. And number 11, let your family be a team and let your kids experience firsthand the mighty things that God is doing in your church. Let your kids be a part of seeing lives changed. Pray together, and then as God does amazing things, let your kids see that so that they experience that for themselves. Let your kids be a part of mission trips. Let them set up or tear down or pass out worship guides or fold them, even as little children. They can be a part. And to see that what God is doing in church planting is so exciting. It's just really an honor that we have and a privilege to have our family along for the ride and let them see that God is doing an amazing thing, not only in your church, but in your home.